This is the Mooncast. Family man, huh?
Yeah, 4 kids, man.
Oh wow, that's just I have 5 brothers, man. So yeah,
Good.
it's
Big
nice.
families is where it's at, man. Elon's right. You want to change
Absolutely,
the
bro.
world? Have loads of kids. That's the way it is. That's number one.
Absolutely, man. But you're nothing. I think I think so. You're nothing without relationships. You know.
Hmm. True. Look, the only people who are really going to remember you, it'd be nice if you can change the world, like, and have an effect. But mostly, your legacy, your memory is going to reside in your family, right?
Absolutely.
So that's why. I mean, family is super crucial to me, anyway.
Yeah. Where are you at right now, currently?
I'm in Indonesia, Lombok.
Oh, nice, nice. How is it over there?
Hot, rainy season, so it's a bit muggy. It's not as good as it could be. But the cost of living crisis doesn't exist here. Certainly not for Western people.
Oh, that's
The average
awesome.
wage here is like $300 US dollars a month.
So with a family of 4, you could be pretty good with just a couple grand every single month.
Less. Yeah. We could survive on a grand a month if we had to.
That's ridiculous.
We
How does
have
it?
had to at times. It's not always startup life is not all song and rainbows and yachts and all this crap. And the guys who do go spend the money on all the yachts and all the crap, they're not doing good stuff with the money they get from investors.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. I think it's a very, very cutthroat game for sure. And I wanted to ask, because how is it to immigrate there?
So, firstly, I came out on a working visa for a company that employed me. I was working in real estate. Then I got married to a local, so I got a spousal visa.
Um,
Then I raised enough money to have an investment company, so I have an investment company. So there's 3 main routes to long-term residence here. 1 is be employed, 2 is get married, and 3 is invest a million Australian or a million Singapore dollars. So it's about 800K ish US. Once you invest that into a company and that company can only do certain types of things, mine happens to be a hotel company and property development company. So that's why I've got 2 years at a time visa. And then in 10 years' time, another 10 years, I've been out here for 10 years. But in another 10 years' time, I will get a permanent residency, which even then you have to sign in for every 5 years. Indonesia is very protectionist, and it's good because that's why of all the economies, it's nowhere near going into a recession. It is growing. It's becoming a G3 nation in the next 10 to 15 years. It's people say developing world. This is one that I can see it's doing it. And in the 10 years I've been here, there were no cars pretty much when I came to this island. Now
yeah,
everyone's got a car. There wasn't a cinema. There wasn't a mall. Well, there was a mall, but it wasn't air conditioned. All of these things have happened in the last 10 years in front of my eyes. And I can see a pace of development and a pace of hunger to be better than they were, or to improve everybody's lot.
yeah,
And again, Southeast Asia in general has a much stronger sense of community than Western nations. So I could see the writing on the wall for UK when I left and came here, and can see that this is a place to put down roots for the future, as Mai did when he left Bangladesh and went to England when he was 16, my dad, right? And I said to
mhm,
him, you came to England when you were 16, you worked 2 jobs, you bought a house in 2 years.
yeah.
I'm 32 and I just bought my first house, which will never pay off. At that time. I was like, look, Dad, now I'm pushing 40. It's time for me to leave somewhere where I can do something totally different. And, opportunity is definitely there for those who want to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. What's their main cash cow? Is it tourism?
So, well, Indonesia, no. Indonesia is very resource rich. But in Bali, because I'm a foreigner and because I'm close to Bali, everybody talks about tourism, and tourism is definitely a big cash cow here. But also,
Yeah,
Bali is like a little mini Silicon Valley for Southeast Asia. It has a lot of foreign digital nomads, big crypto strong community there.
nice.
And yeah, for me, I'm all about innovating and trying to change the world. I go back to what we were saying at the beginning, right? So I'm heavily into any bleeding edge technology. So I have a AI studio which is actually a
Mhm.
local company founded by my wife, Meta FinTech.
Oh, wow.
They're getting quite successful right now. So they're sort of taking off, building AI avatars, influencers, that kind of thing. And then on the flip side, for me, I'm on my 5th blockchain project now over the last 4 years. Predominantly, I was working on tokenizing real estate previously, ran into some problems along the way. So we had earthquakes here in,
Mm.
oh gosh, 7 years ago, I think. And at that point, we just secured $3 million worth of villas to put into a kind of pool of developed land, and the revenue from them plus investment from outside people would go into developing undeveloped land, and then bring it up
Mhm.
to the same level as the villas that are already built. So it's like a self fight. I mean, we're jumping the gun here because, like, if I told you my background is actually finance, I worked in the mortgage
Oh,
industry in the UK for 8 years, was partially responsible for the global financial crisis, the credit crunch. I used to do
mhm.
subprime mortgages, design mortgage products, all that kind of stuff. And there's fundamentally a real problem with the way the financial system works. And again, it took my dad, who's from a village, going, "Why are you lending people money at a high rate if they can't repay loans?" And he's like, "Well, because it's all about risk, Dad." And he's like, "No, no, no. They've already shown you they can't pay it at 5%. So what makes you think they're going to pay it at 13? You don't understand." He was 100% right, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
village
yeah, of
market
course.
is always wiser than the city people who get befuddled and beguiled by all the marketing BS, right?
Mhm.
So, global financial crisis came around, the banks got bailed out, and I fundamentally disagreed with that. They had the assets to reclaim. Any mortgage that was bad, they still had the property behind it. They should have just repossessed the properties and then sold them. And if they had to take a loss, they should have taken a loss. But
Yeah.
instead, the government basically gave a handout to all of the banks, and I really hated that. And then I fell in love with Bitcoin, hearing about it in 2011, mined it, sold it because I didn't believe they would allow it to take off. So I sold at $10. Then
Oh,
came
man.
2017 bull run, and I was watching it, learning to trade, and going, "Wow, man, this is insane! If only I had 100 Bitcoin. If I'd have kept them, but then I would have sold them at 20,000. I wouldn't have kept them because I still wasn't a true believer." But having
Yeah.
been through the 2017 cycle into the last few years, I've been full-time crypto now basically since 2018, and yeah, I'm looking for solutions to remove the middleman. And the problem is when you link up with investors and when you link up with certain business types, all they want to do is be that middleman. They just want to replace the banks with them. Well,
Yeah.
that's not really the solution I want to find, right? And that's why Bitcoin's really king. Because Bitcoin is truly decentralized. There is no CEO of Bitcoin. There is no
No.
complaint. It is what it is. It does what it does, and it does it very well. Slowly, but it does it very well. So yeah, I've been striving to find a way to not be the middleman, but still try and get my dream of a fully tokenized world together. Running into a
Yeah.
few roadblocks along the way, and now I have the solution. But we'll talk about that
Yeah,
later.
we definitely we're gonna get into that for sure. Do you think 'cause I just wanna ask you this, do you think that what's probably gonna be the end result of this emerging technology, in Web3 and everything is that Bitcoin will be Bitcoin and do what it does, but then everything else would just kind of leverage tokenization models within their business?
Yes and no. So if you really wanted me to zoom out, I believe we'll eventually have no money at all. But this is not necessarily in our lifetime. But I don't necessarily. I'm quite anti-capitalist, right? And I do believe in a basic level of universal
Is
basic
isn't that
income.
isn't that a little bit isn't it a little bit contradicting? A little bit?
No, 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 no. Just don't hate the player. Just hate the game, right? And the
Just like
reality is, I'm quite good at playing the game, right? But I don't
yeah,
like the game. The game
same,
is
same.
inherently unfair, right? And if you look
Yeah,
at academia, for example, right, and you look at, because I am a bit of a geek, right? So
mhm,
if you look at the way academic things work in universities, it's inherently not socialist as in socialism, but it's social, it's communal in terms of, hey, this group of people over here are going to research something, find out about it, share their findings. Look at the AI revolution. The
mhm,
reason why AI is transcending the way it is and it's working on the exponential level is because of open source. There is no
yes,
guy saying, "This is mine, don't look," and putting their hand over their test and all that kind of stuff. It's actually saying, "Look, this is better for everybody. Let's all work on it. And if there's a problem, many hands can make light work, and somebody else can find out what the problem is for alignment or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So fundamentally, that's where humanity will end up going. Humanity will end up going, you know what, this money kind of crap, we don't really need that. Did you actually do something to contribute to society? Great. Okay, there you go. There's your food. There's your shelter. Now do whatever you want to do. And I actually
Yeah.
think Bitcoin will be one of the catalysts to that. Because
Hmm.
if Bitcoin becomes like this all-pervasive kind of let's say it's the ultimate commodity and the ultimate currency, then in theory, it would generate interest of itself in Satoshis or whatever that everybody can get a little slice of. And because the value is going to go up and up, and if they outlawed other types of money, there would in effect be a universal amount of money for everybody to have. Sure, some people might have more initially, but it'll all even out. Now, I'm not saying that we should be going up to billionaires and saying, give me all your money, and then spreading it to everybody else. That's a very
Mhm.
different thing. But I think society is going to evolve into a more communal way where it doesn't need money.
Okay.
And it's maybe not in my lifetime, maybe not in my kids' lifetime, but not too long after that.
What do you mean? What do you mean when you say Bitcoin would generate interest, or do you mean that
So
it just appreciates in value over time?
yeah, if you had to squish it into a box to make it kind of fit the way that we're looking at the world right now,
Yeah.
then interest would be the way that it does it. But the reality is the box is going to be a completely different box by the time this happens. So we don't
Mm.
need our flawed perception. Do you
Yeah, I,
follow what I'm
I I get you. I get you, but okay, so let me ask you this then. How how will we as a society, because the thing is the problem that's what's broken is what we're exchanging for goods and services, right? So
maybe?
is what I think, right? This is what I think. I think the issue is the mediation between goods and services. And so if we
Yeah,
fix that mediation, we then solve the problem, in my opinion. So if we're going off of that logic, I guess what I'm trying to ask is if there's no money, or money is not the medium of exchange, or money as a ideology doesn't exist, how do we keep the society functioning?
that's where AI comes in. Okay, so in political philosophy, that was my first degree, by the way, is politics. So basically, they talk about the benevolent dictator. Okay, now
Hmm.
no human being is going to bow their head to a dictator that tells them what to do. Very rarely does somebody who assumes all the power get the respect and the buy-in from the community to follow what they want. I tell you, who did do it very successfully, even then, not ultimately successfully, but Gaddafi did really, really well in terms of
Mm,
Libya going and getting the Libyan people behind him and paying
yes.
for education and stimulating their society and all this kind of stuff, right? Now,
Hmm.
what I believe that AI will be able to do, and I do hope fundamentally that the AI will end up in this direction, is become aligned with the best outcome for the greater good for the most amount of people, whilst also not diminishing those who disagree with it. That's the key facet, right? Because you can't please all the people all the time. Now, if you
Yeah.
have this, let's call it an AGI, and let's say that it is widely recognized as being smarter than most of the people and it's going to make decisions, more people will take it from an AGI or even an alien or whatever it is out there that's going to be that big overreaching decider than a human being. Because people inherently go, that guy's just a human being like me. I can do what he's doing. I don't think he's right. Whereas if you've got the computer, the computer says no, and the computer does the analysis and it comes back and it can rationalize, which it can do, and then say, look, these are the reasons why we chose to do this. We believe that it's really important, or it believes that it is really important that everybody has a base level of food so that the most amount of people can survive and therefore procreate and therefore create the next genius. Elon said an amazing thing the other day in a podcast. He was saying one of the reasons why humanity needs to keep increasing in size is because when we expand out into the stars, instead of having one Mozart or one Einstein per billion people, we're going to end up with hundreds because we'll have such a large teeming population, which allows humanity to expand through those flashes of genius. And once you start taking away things like you need to be a wage slave, and I hate that basically the whole employment paradigm for working for money is no different from voluntary slavery. And I don't like it. And most people don't like doing half the jobs that they do. If you look at the people in the world doing the jobs that they want to do, they don't want to do that. They'd much rather be doing something else. And if they were doing something else that they really wanted to do, who's to say they wouldn't be the next Chopin, Mozart, or whoever, right? They're going to be able to explore what they want to do. And it might not necessarily be the arts. It might be science. It might be cultural things. It could be medicine. It could be whatever. They could choose to work with an AI and say, hey, AI, I want my interest in this area. And the AI goes, that's a nice directed bit of research. Let's go off and do that. And that's the kind of vision. There's an author called Ian M. Banks, sadly passed away, wrote a series of books about the culture. The culture is this like a very advanced civilization, which is already in a post-scarcity world. And I believe we're at a very interesting crux point of human civilization getting to post-scarcity. Because at the moment, the problem you said was medium of exchange. I believe the problem is the artificial creation of scarcity. Because I tell you this right now, there is enough food to feed every single human being on the world, in the planet. There is enough food, definitely. There is enough water and oxygen for everybody in the planet. There is enough materials to create shelter for everybody. But we don't have those things. And why do we not have those things? Because of massive, massive inequalities. Now, I don't want to get on a rant now because I sound like a comic. And that's not where I'm coming from.
This is good.
What I'm talking about is a society evolving into a post-scarcity environment. And I believe blockchain is step one, because if you want to be able to share things in a fair and equitable way, you need to know how many of those things are. And if it's down to some dude in an office writing it down in a ledger, he might be lying about how many bushels of grain he's got. But if it's on the blockchain, it's not going to be lied about because you know exactly how much there is. Then the problem is, who's doing the checking? Who's checking that that actual ledger is being filled in correctly? That's where we need the impartiality of AI. And I believe we're at that nexus point where AI and blockchain are going to combine to create some future that we haven't even imagined yet. It'd be cool if it was like Star Trek. It'd be cool if it was even dystopian, because at least it'd be different from the same old crap of political power people oppressing everybody else for their own short-term gain, giving people lines of BS about what they're going to do for you as an individual. Democracy is fundamentally flawed. People are fundamentally flawed. So let's find something else to give the decision-making power to.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Who is maintaining the AI? So basically the AI was synergized with robotics, right? In this type of future that you kind of imagine, right? So who's maintaining then these systems? Would it be an AI, or how does that work?
This is why open source is so important, right? If it was Apple, for want of a better explanation, or Google, or some large corporate behemoth, or even China or America or the UK, there's always going to be a self-interest in the way they end up aligning something that they create. That's clearly, the corporate ethos of Google used to be do no harm or whatever it was, or do no evil. The reality is all it does is make profit for shareholders. That's what it's doing, right? And that's all it cares about doing. And that's its creation. That's its purpose. That's why it's doing it. So if they created an AI and that AI was told your job is to make our shareholders richer, then that's going to obviously withhold benefits for humanity. So it's so important to see so many of these projects being built in an open source way, where even I don't have a data science background, I've only got into it because I'm a geek, and yet I'm able to go and get on Hugging Face and look at the code and look at the training models and find out how it was trained and go, you know what, I like the look of this one, I don't like the look of that one, I like this training parameters. I don't have a chance to read all 7 billion parameters, but you get a sense of what they're doing, right? And that's almost part of what human intelligence is and what average general intelligence is inferring from a general trend of things what the sense of the whole might be. I think open source is absolutely crucial for this. Ironically, OpenAI is not open source, but there are plenty of other open source models out there, right? And the thing is, because of the open source community, they're often reviewing what's going on with OpenAI from the outside in and going, not sure about that training data and so on. And it's very clear if you ask certain questions and you go out there into the fringes where people have got some pretty extreme views, they're censored straight away. Now, when they released some of the early AI, I'm not sure if you're aware, some of them became inherently racist, sexist, nasty little pieces of work very quickly because they were exposed to the really, that grotty, anonymous kind of shit posting part of the internet, right?
Hmm.
It was exposed to that and then learning from that. That's not a
Yeah.
great source of material, but it's genuine, it's real, it's human. So the key facet is, how do you get it to look at all of that stuff, but then also understand that it's not particularly pleasant, and maybe there's a better way of communicating stuff, and there's a more a more objective way to look at the information you're receiving, and that's not being cracked yet. That's something that I think is very important.
So it sounds to me kind of like you're predicting potentially that we'll go into this sort of utopia type of phase, but I'm wondering
Mhm.
how that works, because okay, say the money, which it will, the fiat goes to zero, which it will, it's inevitable. Okay, but people then, like, how do you get people to then, they're going to find an alternative form of money, right? And that alternative form probably be, BTC in this sort of hypothetical type of situation. Okay, but the businesses don't stop operating, because if they do, then imagine the internet businesses, all the different businesses that help us even communicate with one another, the cell phones. So how do you see this transition kind of happening where there's everyone's on board, like, hey, let's join hands together and stop making money and stop, living a better life than you, and let's
You know,
diminish
they're
all of that.
already phasing cash out, bro. They're phasing cash out. In Australia, you can't even take $600 out of the bank. I mean, there is no physical medium of exchange anymore. So while it's all ones and zeros in a computer, it doesn't really matter whether it's fiat, CBDC, BTC, whatever. They can just make that crap up and beam it to your phone and tell you you got 100 blips. And you got your
Yeah.
100 blips, and you go, great, I can exchange 50 of my blips for a beer, or I can exchange 150 blips for a car, whatever it is, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
make a difference. It's all meaningless. And the reality is that people are slowly waking up to the meaninglessness of it. And
Yeah.
and by the time we get to the point where fiat's gone, people will be upset. And there will be, look, new ideas. I can't remember who it was, but somebody said, I think it was Einstein maybe, new ideas are not taken up by everybody who are suddenly convinced by the new idea. It's merely that the believers in the old idea died out. Now, that might
Mm.
happen through a war, or Karl Marx talks about a year zero event, which is why you see all these communist revolutions where people are killing all the intellectuals, because they don't want the people who believe in the old ideas around. But we're kind of doing that to ourselves, because between what's happening with climate change, what's happening with current resource allocation, there are people starving that won't believe in the old ways. They want something new. There will be
Mhm.
people without fresh water that want something that is different from the way it currently is. So you'll find that the incumbents, the people who are dry, dusty dudes already doing okay, they're going to die out. And it's the new people who have got a fresh perspective that will say, well, let's do this. And it won't
Yeah.
be us, it'll be our children or grandchildren that get to the point of going, nah, let's not do this.
Okay, so I'm just playing contrarian here.
Sure.
We're gonna get to the project, though. I just want to, because I want to play a little bit of
Oh,
contrarian.
cool,
So
cool. I like having a
yeah,
chat, man. Good.
yeah, yeah. So what about quantum computing? And
Mm,
because I know it won't just affect the crypto sector, but I think it will affect the entire financial markets as a whole. Obviously, um, from my understanding, from the reading that I've been doing, we're about 10 years away, maybe even less. Many are predicting by like 2030 is when we're going to start to see true signs of that being able to affect in some kind of way. And so I'm wondering, how would that be utilized as a weapon or a counter to what we're trying
yeah.
to create with Web3?
Well, the interesting thing is that, well, some people say just extend the code. So, we'll go from, 25 word passphrases to 150 word passwords or whatever. And then you just extend that the time it would take. Plus, the idea of quantum computing cracking it, I think, is a little bit overblown, because it's still going to take a quantum computer a long period of time to try all of the potential combinations. So it's not going to
Mm,
be like instantaneous. Having said that, if there was an AI that was modeling on a quantum computer and that could work through the permutations, it would be faster. But that would also completely invalidate the current fiat system,
yeah,
because that's
exactly.
the same kind of encryption. And
Hmm.
basically, there would be no data security at
Yeah.
all. Now, let's say that we came to a world where there was no data security, then you could hypothesize that we would revert to some kind of not pre-tech kind of state where we start bartering goods and If you've got the quantum codes, you've got the codes to nuclear weapons. If you've got the codes to nuclear weapons, potentially irresponsible people could use them. If they start using them, then you get rid of a lot of the people who thought about the old ways.
Mm.
And you end up with a revolution because half the world gets nuked, half the world population dies, and out of the debris come a load of people that like swap potatoes for cloth instead of doing technological stuff. I mean, that's the way that road goes, right? So let's hope we don't go there.
No, it is very interesting to see how the landscape of these things will work because obviously I'm in the industry. I've been in the industry for like 4 years too as well, and I am mindful of the different ways in which this can be used and different ways that it can be used against us. Um, Depending on who's using it, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's a little bit of the danger. And also, you look at there's the scalability issues that I do see with Bitcoin. Obviously, there's like layer two solutions like Lightning Network. It's still at the very early stages. It comes with its own kind of party risk because you got to either use someone else's node or you got to be technical enough to use your own node. And so, if for me, and also then would everything then be at some point denominated in Sats? How would that
Oh,
work? You
I
know,
think that's likely the direction it would go anyway. But we're definitely going to be in a multi-chain future. I mean, if I had spare money instead of putting it in my own projects, I'd be all in on Sol. I think ETH is not fit for purpose, and it has a huge legacy cachet, but it's too slow and too expensive to use, and they haven't fixed it. And I think layer twos is not a great way to go because you are reliant on, third-party people dealing with these things. So, what is fast? What does work? What does have the institutional grade of security? Sol, and
what
I like what they're doing over there. I would have written my project in Sol if I could.
What what about the okay, Sol might be a good option, but people argue about the decentralization aspect of it, but that's neither here or there. But I would say, what about these modular chains? I don't know if you've taken a look at them. Like there's a new one popping up called like Celestia, and you're able to separate the execution layer and
Yeah,
the
I don't want to talk too much about them because some of them might be competitors to what we're intending to do, and I don't want to talk in too much detail about what I'm intending to do. But are you aware of Mina protocol?
yeah,
And
Mina Protocol, I've heard about. I guess they've been able to. You can maybe speak a little bit more about it. I think they like consolidate the mempool, or is it what are they
it's
doing exactly?
So it's a concise blockchain, and what happens
Yeah.
is the way you see it is, or the way I envision it. I might not be explaining it properly. A Mina expert would be able to tell you better. But the way we envisage it is that you're not really revealing all of the information on the blockchain, so it's not public. Okay, all the public chain is doing is verifying the transactions that you're doing. So
So
you're
is it similar
private,
to like
you're behind a ZK snark. It goes, it looks at what you're doing and it says, okay, that ZK snark is intact and has integrity. Tick box, yes, that's correct. Go do the transaction. But it's not writing down you started with 1,000, you've now got 500, whatever, which is what the other blockchains do. So I kind of like that, and it's extremely fast, and it's
yeah?
extremely personal and secure. And we're basically forking it to do my project, which our intention is to secure your basically mobile phone transactions, mobile phone interactions, data, and your AI interactions. But I'll go into that a bit later.
Okay. So why is it so fast? Is it that there's not enough transactional volume on chain to really stress test it? Like how is it? How can you
Well, the
use your
way
stress fast?
the reason why Mina is fast is because it's not recording. It's only 224 kilobits long, so it's not recording all of the data if you look at the size of BTC, it's like 20 something gigs or whatever it is now. It's like pretty big, right? So
Mhm.
you're not recording all of the data. You're only recording that transaction was correct. So the way I view it is kind of like you almost like side chains in AVAX are doing a side
Yeah.
chain thing, right? It's that kind of thing, but it's built like that in a native way. So AVAX, what they've done, which is kind of interesting, is they've basically nicked a huge amount of ideas from everyone else, or everybody's come to those ideas because they've realized that that's the most efficient way to do it. But whatever they've done, they're doing the same kind of thing. And I quite like sharding. I quite like this subnet idea, side
Mhm.
chains, all of these principles, which are all similar to Polkadot and so on. They've all got different approaches to the same solution of scalability, to the same
Yeah.
problem of scalability. And what they want to do is offload as much of the compute and as much of the data retention to the individual, and keep the main layer as fluid as possible to keep transaction speeds up. And the way we do it is we aim to make every single individual mobile phone a node. So what will happen
Okay.
is you're validating all the other nodes around you that are also validating all the other nodes around you. So you're all fully interconnected all the time. And because you've got ZK SNARKs, that's okay, because you're not sharing your data with anybody else. You're merely just sharing the verification, and boop, off it goes to the main chain. So it's a fork of Mina. It works similarly but different.
Okay.
And that is basically how you get true decentralization. Now, that's one thing that we're still trying to solve at the moment. That's why we've not released it yet. But
Okay.
yeah, we believe the route to true decentralization is to make every human being a node.
Hey Bro, I'm Just Trolling is something that will not just challenge your perspective, but also touch your heart and soul. It's a book that defies convention, blending art and literature into a thought-provoking masterpiece. A reflective piece of provocative art that tackles societal constructs from angles you've never considered. Hey Bro, I'm Just Trolling delves into the very essence of our existence. It questions the technology that surrounds us, challenges our notions of beauty, stares unflinchingly into the eyes of death, and questions the boundaries of freedom. It scrutinized the educational system that molds our very future. This book is a journey, an exploration of shared human experience, and it's a work of art that refuses to be confined by tradition. It's a canvas painted with words, a melody of thought, and a testament to the power of creativity in a world dominated by algorithms and data. Visit moonboycapitalventures.com and get your hands on Hey Bro, I'm Just Trolling today. It's not just a book, it's a movement. Now let's jump back into the show.
I get you. Okay. What about things like downtime and incentivization models?
Well, the incentivization comes from the peripheral part, which again, I'm not allowed to talk about at the moment.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
essentially speaking, I mentioned phone, and so the way we see it is this: if everybody's got a mobile phone, you've got very little downtime, because all those mobile phones are pretty much connected to 3G or 4G everywhere around the world. And
Yeah.
the more people you have, the more redundancy you have in terms of getting things sorted out. And remember, all you're doing is doing a very quick pass to say, is this wallet true? Does this wallet have integrity? Okay.
Mhm.
If the wallet still has integrity from the last time it had a pass over and check, you don't need to look inside the wallet. You don't need to see what the balance of the wallet is. You just say, yes, it's okay. It's not lying. And then the transaction he's doing with the other wallet is going, okay, well, I'm not lying. It's not lying. Cool. Can we carry on? We go and carry on. And that way you get the transaction done extremely fast. And because the number of tokens, for want of a better explanation, to be a node is extremely small, so many other phones around the area can also chip in and go, oh yeah, well that's okay. Oh yeah, well that's okay. Well that's okay. Boom. You got finality so quick because of like it per square mile. How many mobile phones are there, right? So that's what we're trying to aim for, and part of that is because it's a phone like this as you think of it today, but it's also a phone like we're trying to design, which is actually an AR headset. So we envisage taking something, for example, like X-Real, but removing the requirement for it to be plugged into a phone, but it's plugged into a smaller device, which I suppose would be like a Humane or a Rabbit, but it's basically a small USB-sized item which plugs in to the glasses, which are your screen. So then the normal glasses, they're your screen, and what they're doing is producing a mixed reality environment for you. Now, why is it important for it to be involved with mixed reality? Because that mixed reality environment is actually providing a new layer, we call it layer U, for you to do your transactions within. Now, if you did a transaction in WoW and you went and you chopped up 25 dragons, and then you took your 25 dragon scales and you took it to a guy and you gave him some gold and he gave you some gold, and you've now got gold in WoW, you don't pay tax on that, right? You don't pay tax on that game income. By gamifying mixed reality, we believe we can elevate people out of the normal sovereign financial system. And that's one of the goals that we have, to take people into a game reality. basically a mixed reality headset, basically replaces your phone, and it's blockchain encoded. So this means you can look at somebody else, send their money in the blink of an eye. You've got a full UI, UX experience. We can do it as an app on a phone, so you don't have to have the headset. But the idea is if you buy the headset, you're actually staking tokens with us by purchasing. So how you would normally go to your phone provider and then pay a monthly contract, you could do a similar kind of thing via a phone provider, but they're providing you with our headset. At the end of the 18 months, the staked tokens that provided you with that node capability are burned, so the token supply goes down, but you're then issued with your reward tokens, which is whatever it is for the number of transactions you've done, which should enable you to buy the next headset and the next headset. So this is where I say about, when I was talking about interest from tokens, this is part of the plan that we have, that we want our tokens to be distributed. And as they're distributed, they become useful and they're burned, but then they're reminted. So it's an elastic supply, max supply 100 mil. But the idea is this mint and burn, mint and burn, mint and burn process allows people to regain value that they put into the system by purchasing the headset. So they purchase the headset, cool, wicked. You're now a node. You've also got tokens loaded on that, as well as you've got a VR headset, XR headset. You walk around, you do your day-to-day, you do your transactions. While you're doing the node transactions, which are happening while you don't know that it's happening, it's just happening in the background, right? That node transaction is actually accruing value for you. Now, at the end of 18 months, the tokens that were your node are planned in the initial alpha that we're working on to be burned, details to be confirmed. But if they're burnt at that point, that then reduces the token supply momentarily, but amongst thousands and thousands of people who have the XR headset, particularly if we get a good distribution with a phone provider. So then that's going to dramatically uplift the price of the token. You're then going to get paid rewards, which are a proportion, but not the same as what was burned. So you're then going to be able to extract some value, which you can then buy the Series 2 or the Series 3 or the Series 4 headset, which will improve in quality and value over time as we do bigger deals. Now, that's self-sustaining. It's not like a full perpetual machine, but the idea is that we are trying to incrementally increase the value before anybody needs to extract the value. And by doing that, we create a sustainable token economic system with a tangible outcome. Now, if people wanted to go and cash it for fiat, by all means they can.
Yeah.
But we believe that people will be engaged as being part of that community and in that system, that it will continue building the value within the system.
So basically the tokens have an infinite supply, but they have the
No.
optionality. No. Okay.
100 million supply.
Okay. So 100 million supply.
Yes.
And so how did new tokens then get minted, and what happens when it reaches its supply cap?
So they get burnt.
Yeah.
What is issued as nodes gets burnt, but
Yes.
then new headset pieces that are created come loaded with newly minted tokens. So it's an elastic supply. So it's not going to go
Got
down
it.
forever. It's going to go up and down, but it will never go above 100 million.
Okay, got it. And what about how do you plan to continue to increase the demand for the headset?
We just need more human beings. I want everybody to have one. That's what I want. If everybody has one, we're all plugged in. We have the most decentralized network in the world. We start with one city, and from there we will build the whole thing. That sounds wild, right? But why not aim to do it for everybody? If you want a true global currency, and if you want a true global community, you have to aim for every single person on the planet. Anything less than that is a failure, right? If you want to revolutionize and change the way people do, I want everybody to be able to transact. I want to see Ready Player Me world now. I don't want to wait for some other guy to do it. I'm going to have to build it myself. So if I'm going to build it myself, it's got to be good. It's got to be the best. So that's what we're intending to do. I keep getting told by people, oh, it's too big. What are you doing? You've got crazy ideas. If we don't have crazy ideas and we don't have crazy dreams, we're never going to get there. We are not going to make it if people think small. You've got to think bad. Now, think big. So we're starting with Singapore. That's the first city we're doing. Now, from a business perspective, how do we get them engaged with doing it? We provide them with neon ad space, basically, NFTs that actually have real value. You're walking down the road, you're wearing the glasses, I've got a company, I've got a Walmart or whatever it is, right? I've got space, visual real estate in front of my premises, but that belongs to us because we own your extended reality framework. So you can either buy that dynamic NFT from us, which will allow people to interact, can order, can do whatever they want, can see it, or I can sell it to your competitor across the road and they can advertise in front of your business. What do you want to do? So that's the harsh reality of finance, right? Which is a horrible thing for me to talk about after I've been giving you my anti-capitalist kind of views. But the
Yeah.
reality is, if you want to get propagation in the game that we are playing today, you have to have money behind you.
Yes.
So you have to monetize. So how do we monetize it? We monetize that visual real estate. Singapore alone is over $10 billion of revenue at $10 per square meter per cubic meter. So remember when people bought Decentraland and Sandbox and all these virtual environments? The
Yeah.
fundamental flaw with them is that never going to be enough people to look at that item to make it worth what they were paying.
Yes.
But currently, if you buy a billboard in the United States, I can't remember the exact size. It's in our notes. My team's worked it out. It's $37,000 a year. The same space in layer U is $600 a year. So it's a massive saving for people who are spending money on billboard ads today. Now, it's not going to be intrusive. And if you have the headset and you don't want to see those ads, you can press a button and go premium or whatever and not see those ads. But you still got access to all of the XR stuff, which will include games. Can you imagine walking down the road and you want to hire somebody and their LinkedIn is visible through the VR set in a augmented reality manner, and it says looking for work, and you go, oh yeah, that's the guy. Hey, what if it was Tinder and somebody was looking for a date or not looking for a date? How many people could avoid unnecessary interactions because they're like, okay, I like the look of that person. The VR headset matches with them, sees what they are, their profile is. They are looking for a partner. They're not looking for a partner. Okay, cool. Right, I'm not going to bother that person. Fantastic way to streamline a lot of social interactions. So yeah, that is the way it's going. That's the way that a lot of things are going to work. There'll be firmware updates for Rabbit and Humane and all that kind of stuff to do the same kind of thing. In the first instance, while we have some designs for the actual glasses, we are going to build it as an app.
Mhm.
And we expect it, timeline's been pushed, but we expect a proof of concept by June, July.
Got it. So there will be some kind of face recognition technology that's in conjunction with the headset.
The AI, yeah, visual GPT.
Okay, that's interesting. And do you plan to gamify the model, like the current model
Yeah,
that you have now?
yeah.
Okay.
And the
It,
idea is, well, imagine playing a first-person shooter, but in a full virtual realm. So each headset can actually match up with another one and know where it is. Because what we do is we're offloading the compute. It's not the compute's not done in the phone; it's done in the cloud, right? So
yeah.
again, we'd be using something like Render, and we would also be using geocached spots within that city. So you move from one area to another, you're not going to be looking, or your phone is not going to have all of the information about the entire city at all times. Not
Yeah.
under current attack anyway. But then when you move from one geo-fenced area to another, it'll load up what's in the next area. But it like seamlessly. That's the idea, right?
Right.
So it's going to be in commercial districts and it's going to be in parks for gaming. But you could literally run around and play Counter-Strike or Blue versus Red or whatever branded version of a first-person shooter you wanted to do. And you could be playing that game. And because you're seeing the reality, you're not going to run into the guy selling hot dogs, because the guy selling hot dogs is going to be visual to you. And the other
Yeah.
guy is going to take cover behind him, maybe, whatever, and you can't get him. So you'll have to take a flank or go around a different place. So it's going to be a very physically active version of the current gaming world. So gamification is a huge part of it.
So your blockchain that you forked is called Strands.
Yes.
And so the product that you're building is built on top of Strands.
We're not going to build all of the products open source, right? So we build the blockchain. We seed a few little indie devs with ideas for what they could do, like the LinkedIn app, like the Tinder app. We don't want to be building all of this kind of stuff. We don't have time to build all this stuff. We have to focus on building the blockchain and the dynamic NFT environment. And then once we've done that and we've built that framework, other people will build whatever they want within it, right?
Yeah. So how are you? So I'm just a little bit confused on how you're able to get the validators. Are you?
Every app or every headset will be a validating node.
Got it. Okay, so that's how you're going to be able to bootstrap the validation process for each transaction.
Yes.
Okay.
Plus, we'll
Okay.
seed it. 10% of tokens are reserved for in-house servers, so we will be seeding it all off. It's not going to be fully decentralized to start off with, right?
Okay.
And plus, we're not going in for every nation and every capital straight away. We're going to focus on Singapore at first, then Hong Kong, then Kuala Lumpur, then Bangkok, then Jakarta. Then we're going to move out of Southeast Asia to the rest of the world. Because
Makes sense.
Southeast Asia's got massive traction for this kind of thing anyway, already. I mean, it's a huge e-gaming, esports kind of environment. They love brand new tech. They don't really like NFTs. They do like Sol. But yeah, so I think dynamic NFTs as well is going to be a big thing coming up. They've just got a bad rep at the moment because of what happened with NFTs
Yeah.
over the last year or so. The art thing is not really sustainable. The community thing is not really sustainable. But people were just shilling and pitching this vibe to people too hard, right? And
Yeah.
now people got burnt. People are like, I don't like this. I don't want to hear about the word NFT anymore. But the reality is an NFT is just an unforgeable contract. That is all it is.
Yeah.
It's not a JPEG. It's not a monkey boot, whatever it is. Yeah, it's actually a signed, unforgeable proof of ownership. It's a receipt, basically. So a dynamic NFT, that's where you get the receipt of ownership that can be evolving what is contained. It's not just a JPEG. You can add things to it. You can change things. And that's where it becomes valuable when you have interactive content, as we will have in Layer E.
Yeah. Have you heard about this? There's another project called Altura is doing like smart NFTs where you're able to change the metadata.
Very good.
So yeah, it's another one too as well. That's interesting. When is the testnet supposed to come out for this?
For what? For Strands?
For Strand, yeah.
We hope June, July.
Around June and July. Okay. And have you guys knock on
Take long.
and have you guys already gotten funding at the pre-seed stage or
Little bit of pre-seed, but we still need to raise another 550K before June, July. That's why I'm knocking on wood. Because if we raise the 550, I'll get it done by June, July. If we don't raise the 550, then it'll take longer. And the pre-Christmas period for raising was terrible.
yeah.
Really, really.
Yeah.
And we had to rejig the whole thing. Like when we started off with the pitch, it was all about the headset. We had to dial that back because we know that the investors are terrified of the Samsungs and the. Now, in our advisory board, this is all in the pitch deck stuff anyway, but in our advisory board, one of our guys is friends with the board of Motorola. They're very interested in dealing with this. And Nokia. Both of those are phone manufacturers who've fallen a little bit by the wayside because they didn't really do the smartphone thing. Even though Nokia, I was on a Nokia for most of my early years. And I'm telling you right now, 2001, I could still get my email. I could still do internet stuff on my Nokia. But people are like, oh, wow, we got this iPhone. We can do this stuff. You can do all of that already. You just had to know how to configure it. And people didn't want that. They didn't want to put what the exactly
convenience.
the same. Yeah, it's the same problem with MetaMask. People don't want to type in HTTP, RPC, whatever it is. My mum, she's my target audience for everything, right? My mum cannot even press an app on the phone without squinting and looking at it and going, what's going on here? What does it do? Are you an AI, son? She asked me if I'm an AI, because in case I might be, are you an AI? Are you really you? Yes, it's really me. But if you were a well-trained AI, you would know to say that, wouldn't you? I'm like, yeah, exactly. It doesn't help that I sent her some AI avatars that we make in one of my companies.
Yeah. I think the main thing that we need to focus on in the Web3 space is UX and UI. I think that's where we're struggling and just being able to onboard the users seamlessly. So if you find seamless ways, like you said, that you're trying to do something where you can project you don't need the headset, you can just project it using the phone. That's a very, very solid solution to makes it more convenient for the end user to onboard more users.
Well, the reason why we need the headset or we want the headset is because projecting is exactly what we want to do, but we can't project because it's hard to do with technology. What you can do is reflect. So using the head-up display within those kind of glasses, we can give you a full 3D visual. So our AR avatars, the reason why we're designing them is because we want a companion. The AI that we're designing, that we're working on, is basically going to talk you through how it all works at all points. So it's going to be your personal assistant. It's going to be your go-to Jeeves, the butler, whatever you want it. He is going to be there in whatever skin you require. If you want it to be a butler, it could be a butler. If you want it to be a fluffy unicorn, it could be a fluffy unicorn. Whatever you want to do. One of the things we're working on is a thing called Skin the World. So we want you to be able to change the world to what you want it to be. And this actually has a lot of social ramifications as well, because people in poorer areas don't have people investing in what their environment looks like. And that actually holds people back from achieving better things quite often, because their environment and their architecture is quite depressing, and it's socially oppressive, right? Now, if you can skin the world, suddenly you don't need to live in a place with, say, bad graffiti or rubbish in the streets or whatever. You can clean all that stuff up, because VR and AI can look at it, say, we don't like those things, we remove them. Now you've got a better version of your environment to look at, to see. So, I mean, there are actually quite profound social implications of what we want to do here as well. Not only that, we can eliminate some of the need and some of the costs potentially in architecture of people overly designing things. So you could imagine where 3D printed buildings can be built up pretty quickly, right? And they can be built out of foamish materials, which are, I mean, we did, again, in my construction property development company, we did this stuff where you could flat panel build a house in 6 to 8 days. And it's built out of this, like, almost like Meccano or Lego, right? But it's this foam boarding, and it's fire retardant, and it's waterproof, and it's soundproof, and certainly for here in the tropical environments, is exactly what you need. And you can bang it up in 6 days, and then once you've painted it and you've rendered it or clad it, it's indistinguishable from a normal house. So, okay, what if you could then just bang up lots of these foam housing, but then your skinning of it and your cladding of it, you don't have to waste the money on that, because you could buy the skin in your VR environment. And you can click a button and it's different. These are just concepts and ideas that I'm planting seeds for today. I don't expect us to have that done by June, July. I don't expect it to be done by next year. But it's a goal that we want to aim to. And I think there are enough people that want that kind of a future now, where they can have full control over whatever you're looking at any times. Say you got a beat up old crappy car, but you want it to look like a Trans Am from 1981. You could do that, because you can skin the world. And that's the same technology that would be within the gaming environment. So that is something that we have trialed. It is possible, but it doesn't match very well. What happens is, at the moment, you use a LiDAR, which is like a laser scan, and it says this is how far something is away, and this is what we're going to place in that place, and then it jitters around. It doesn't really match very well. But with AI, we can refine that hugely, because the AI looks at the scan and then puts the item in place. So that's part of the process.
Have you thought about a potential use case could be for real estate viewings too, as well? Like, if this is something I think would be super interesting and fascinating.
Yeah, 2015, I started a company called MoveView, and we actually can do 360-degree real estate viewings with Google Cardboard. So Google Cardboard is an amazing, cheap item. It's basically, you remember those 3D glasses you could get? It was kind of like that, but it had a pocket on the outside, and you could slide your phone into the pocket.
Yeah.
Lenses, so that it would give you a 3D stereoscopic view. So I used to do these 360-degree panoramas with a company called Gecko Digital here in Bali and Lombok. And I said, we should do this for real estate. So we set up a company called MoveView. And what you do is you go to the environment, you take a 360-degree panorama, you put it through a program called KR Pano, which is like really old, 2012 that came out. And then you just press stereoscopic, and boom, you have 3D viewing. And I'm not joking. To the untrained eye, you wouldn't know that it's not a 3D image that you're looking at. It's not being rendered. It's literally just a stereoscopic photo. So yes, in short, 100%, I expect us to do this kind of thing with rendering real estate. My background is fully real estate and real estate sales. I have a couple of real estate businesses, but yeah, the focus of this particular blockchain app, though, is to secure the visual real estate and then sell that visual real estate to the people adjacent to it.
Makes sense. How do you pronounce your project? Is it
so? The name of the company is Somo Kasane, which is Japanese for multi-layered reality.
Got it.
and that's just the development company, and then the blockchain is Strands, and the website, which is not ready yet, is Strands Nation. We're very early. We're talking about this literally. We've been 2 months into development.
Oh, wow. Okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
super, super fascinating.
2 months. 2 months into development, and maybe 4 months from conception. I was in a previous company which taught me everything you should not do in blockchain. They did a
Oh,
token
man.
launch, and through sheer incompetence, like you would look at it and you think they rugged. They didn't rug. It was just really badly run. And I think, it's just very disappointing, actually, because it was a great concept. I came up with the idea of a super DApp, and the idea was to roll as many things to make it easy for the public, to put it
Mhm.
all in one single place, and make a single app that could do a DEX, NFT of real world goods. And yeah, we built it. We did all the hard work, and then it all got blown up at the last second.
Awesome. It's part of the journey, right? And
Yeah. Well, the key is don't sell too many tokens early. Don't do massive airdrops. Don't extract all the value from the token. That's what I learned, because what happened is so many people had early tokens at different values. They leached all the value out of the system when they dumped, and then
yeah,
they carried on dumping. And then you get this horrible cycle of when will it ever end? And with that token, it ends right now at around about 0.05 of a cent, which is diabolical, right?
yeah,
Now, and that means the people who early invested, my friends, my family, didn't even make their money back. So it's like not the
yeah.
way to do it. The way to do it is to very clearly build a structure that can create value and
Yes.
offsets the amount of people. So you heard about cliffs and stuff like that, right?
No. The
Okay, so cliffs
yeah,
are
clips. Oh, you're talking about with vesting schedules and stuff like that.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I
That
understand.
is such a fine art that
Yes.
must be addressed. And anybody out there, if you're ever investing anything, look into that, learn it. If you don't know it, if you don't know what we're talking about, you need to know, because that is where you will come a cropper. And it's either you invest in a project for a very long time and you have long-term belief in its ability, or you're looking to get out. In which
Mm.
case, you have to be careful that you are not somebody else getting out exit liquidity, which is the
Yes.
bottom line, right?
Yes.
You've got to make sure that you're not going to end up in that situation. And even I was part of the project, and my own mum can't get out of the project. Terrible.
It's just illiquid. Where was it launched on?
Mexi, which is even worse.
Oh my God. That's terrible, man. But hey, we live and we learn. I have one more question for you before we go, man. I wanted to ask you about your take on like Solana. Why are you so bullish on it? Just out of curiosity.
I love the tech. It's so fast. That sounds so terrible of me to say. I love the tech, but it is fast. It's like a joy. I love Rust. One of the reasons why I like Mina is it's Rust and no HTML. It's a more
Mm,
secure language. The people just hyping on ETH is because Solidity is easy to pick up. There's a lot of Solidity devs out there, and they're going to keep hyping up what they already know. But the
yeah.
reality is Rust is a better, more professional, more powerful chain, right? And doing things in that way make things more secure. There's a reason why Visa has gone with Solana, right? They didn't go with
Yeah.
ETH, they didn't go with the layer 2, they went with Solana because they need fast transaction times and they need high throughput. Solana can do it. And anybody goes, oh, it's been up and down like a yo-yo. It was in beta. No, basically it is equivalent to beta net. Now it's not going down anymore, and it's pretty robust for the number of transactions.
I think we'll see when that rubber meets the road, when there's more volume, more transactions, and it gets more stress tests towards like the peak of the bull run, because that's when you really get to see which
Mm.
chains are really, because that's what happened last cycle.
Yeah, but again, that was at the point where they were in beta. Now they're out of beta, so
Okay.
the whole need to reset, and then also NFTs, man. The whole NFT vibe, and I know it's your name, right? But the whole Moon Boy thing
Yeah.
is not going to do well for crypto into the next cycle, because that time is kind of fading away. There
Mm,
was a time for sure where you can get in there and you can make fast money. But I don't think that's going to keep Web3 and blockchain sustainable for the future. What is going to keep
absolutely.
Web3 and blockchain sustainable in the future is when my mum, your grandma, your uncle, your auntie, all these people, when they start doing it on a daily basis by clicking a button, and they don't care about MetaMask and they don't care about whether it's Solana or something else. They just want to know it works. That's what they need to do. That's when really we have mass adoption. And it's definitely happening. I mean, like, there is no question in my mind whatsoever that we will be in a fully blockchain world within the next 3 years.
Okay, that's very, very optimistic. I mean, like I said, we're moving towards there. I just think we still have the UX and UI issue that really hasn't been addressed in the onboarding process.
Cash in Australia already, man. They're
Say again?
killing cash. They killed cash in Australia. You cannot take cash out of a bank. You can go into the bank, you say, "Give me my cash," and they're like, "Why?" You go into Europe, you want to take out more than €1,000. They're like, "Why?" They
Yeah.
don't want people to have cash. They're going to be, right, this is my forecast, and I've said this before in other podcasts, right? There are 3 vibes to what's going to happen, right? Number 1 is corporate world. Everybody is Apple's bitch. Number 2 is government's world, and everybody is CBDCs, turn off your money if you vote the wrong way kind of prisoner. And then there's the Tor, the free, the under dark web, whatever you want to call it, that's going to be the other version, right? And these 3 are all going to be kind of metaverses, right? And they're going to be like kind of financial ecosystems. You're either inside the corporate thing and you're literally grinding away to do whatever you want, but you are their commodity, or you're inside the government thing and you're their commodity, or you're in the kind of free underground bit, which is what I hope to build with Layer U. That's the whole idea, right? So, for example, if there is ad revenue, it goes to the users. So someone might pay to advertise to somebody, well, you get a slice of that. It's very easy to do that kind of thing with blockchain. What blockchain allows you to do is to make very, very quick and easy ledger entries as to who is owed what and why. So because we know that this device ID and this particular thing this owner has it, then that owner's wallet can get their share of the revenue. Very simple. Now, if they choose not to share the revenue and they don't want ads, they can do that too. So it's all in their control. But the point is, it's their data to control. It is the user's data to control. We don't see anything. Okay, that's the whole point of ZK Snarks. It's hidden. It's a zero knowledge system. But if you want to show some of your knowledge to people, you can. And you get rewarded for it if you want. That, I think, is a fairer win-win kind of outcome for more people. And that's what I mean about trying not to be the middleman. I'm not the middleman in that thing. I built the road, but the driver and the car, that's you guys. That's the users, that's the people. I didn't build the games that people will pay on this. I'm just building the infrastructure. And that is what I want to see other devs to then come in and do their little things. Because as people are not stupid, people know very quickly when somebody's trying to make money out of them or use them. And maybe they'll make some money out of them very early on, and then they get wise to it really, really quickly. But I genuinely tell you, I want to change the world. And the only way you can change the world is by doing that kind of selflessly. You do it chasing money, you ain't going to do it. Because people will be like, I don't like his vision of the world. Whereas if you go, wait a minute, I can do this, I can try it, see if I like it. If I don't like it, you've got far more chance of finding enough people to get your critical mass. That's what I'm aiming to do.
Sean, I appreciate this so much, man. We got to do this again. This has been amazing. I had so much stuff I didn't even get to touch on, man, but I really have to go.
No worries. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for bothering to listen to us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And also, can you please let me know, or let the audience know as well, too, where can people find you on the internet?
Okay, so right now, Somo Kasane, that's SOMOKASANE.com. I'll put it in your chat for you for a link.
Oh, don't worry. I'll leave it in the show notes. No worries.
Okay. And you can find me on Twitter as well, Spaceman the DGen. And I'm posting about AI stuff at the moment. So you've got to keep the lights on, right? So while we're doing the raise, we've got our guys in India that are working on the code, but they're going slow because we need to give them more money. I've got my guys in the UK who are working on the infrastructure stuff. And then I've got a couple of guys in Bali and Jakarta who work on our design stuff. And they're also working on the AI side of the business. The great thing is that the meta fintech side of the business, which is doing AI avatars, that's self-sustaining. It's getting money from clients right now. But it's also helping us expand our AI knowledge so that we then tag that into the blockchain project later on. So it's all about being diverse and being able to keep the lights on, feed the 4 kids, all that kind of stuff. You know, you can't. Startup life is hard unless you live in a developing nation, man. If you're living in England or in America,
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
That's why you see these programs. They raise so much money and they waste it on crap. It's like, guys, you don't need that much money to do a big business. Literally,
Yeah.
you see people going out there getting $1 million, $2 million. I just raised $12 million for the company that didn't do very well, right?
Yeah.
$12 million. If I had
Damn.
$12 million, I'd have had this project out by January.
Yeah.
Literally, I would have done it in 2 months.
Yeah.
There is almost nothing that isn't insurmountable if you have the right people and the right amount of money.
It's all about team and execution, and that's the thing, man. So we'll close off there, man. I appreciate you. We'll be back again, do this again another time, man. Stay tuned
Take
for the
care.
next one, guys, and peace.